Today I'm going to show you how to make the cutest Easter decorations crochet egg warmers. These are from a vintage pattern that I've tweaked to make my own. I found it in my Auntie M's collection. My Auntie M's probably watching. Hi Auntie M. Your crochet patterns are going to good use. The original pattern shows you how to make a bunny, bear, and a lion, but it says you can make any kind of animal you want. So I decided to go with a bunny and a chick. It's quick and it's easy. It's all double crochets, kinda. The paws or arms are half double crochet and the beak has single crochet, so not too many stitches that you need to know. I can fit them over plastic eggs and even bigger plastic eggs. I used acrylic yarn, so there is some stretch to it. You could also use them as actual egg warmers and put them over real eggs depending on the size of them. I personally have never used an egg warmer, so I kind of like the idea of a decoration or even a gift. You can fill up a plastic egg with candy and have this little guy on top. Or maybe it's just like a fun Easter project for you to make. So like I said, I used acrylic yarn. I used a 4.5mm hook. Depending on your gauge and the size of the egg you want to use, you may want to adjust this, but like I said, there is some flexibility with the yarn. All right, let's get started. I have my purple yarn. We're making a purple bunny and my 4.5mm hook. I'm gonna start by showing you how to make the body. So make a magic circle, and if you don't know how to do that, that's okay. The pattern actually says start with a chain 5 and then slip stitch to join it into a ring. So once you have your ring, however you decide to make it, you're gonna start by chaining 2. Our first round is gonna be working into the magic circle, and it's gonna be 12 half double crochets. So yarn over, into the magic circle, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through the first 2, yarn over through the next 2, and that's your first double crochet. Technically, we could count the chain 2 as our first double crochet, but we're not. We're just gonna ignore it, and this will be our first double crochet. So that's our first of 12. I need to do 11 more. This is 2. Great, we have our 12 double crochets plus our chain 2 that we're ignoring. I'm gonna untwist this to pull the string and close the magic circle. It took a second, but I was able to close the magic circle. For anyone who did the chain method, the pattern says at the end, you can close any openings at the top of the head by using the tail end of the yarn and drawing the hole shut from the inside. So once you're done, just use your extra yarn to sew the circle closed. All right, next step is we need to actually join this round into a circle. You see there's a gap right there. So I am going to go into the space between our chain 2 and make a slip stitch. There, now we got our circle. To start round 2, you're going to chain 2 and ignore it just like before. This round is going to be 12 double crochets, 1 into each stitch we made in the last round. So to start, yarn over into that first stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over through the second 2, and there's our first double crochet, ignoring the chain 2. Now you're just gonna keep doing this all the way around into the next stitch, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, and repeat until you have a total of 12. I'm gonna jump ahead in the video, but I'll see you when I'm done with this round. I'm back. I've done 11 double crochets. Here is my last one into the last stitch. And then there's our slip stitch from the last round. We're just gonna ignore that. And you'll see it start to fold in. I'm gonna make sure to pop it out. And then just like before, I'm gonna join the round by slip stitching into that chain 2 space. You see the beginning of our head. Now round 3 and round 4 are exactly the same as round 2. So you're going to chain 2 and work a double crochet into each stitch all the way around. Once you get to the end of round 3, slip stitch to join the round together, and then repeat to start round 4. I'm not gonna do all of it on camera, I'm gonna jump ahead, but I'll see you at the end of round 4. We've made it to the end of round 4. Remember, round 2, 3, and 4 are all exactly the same. I'm going to do my last double crochet into the last stitch. And make sure you don't work into that slip stitch from the last round. So you should have a total of 12 double crochets. And then just like before, I'm going to slip stitch into that chain space to join the round. And now we have our head. Round 5 is going to be a little bit different than the other rounds because we need to start increasing for our body now that we've finished the head. But we're going to start it the exact same way with a chain 2 that we ignore. Our first stitch is going to be very similar. It's going to be a double crochet into that first stitch. But the second stitch is where it changes. We're going to be doing 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So yarn over for the first one. That's 1 double crochet into this stitch. Now we're gonna do another one exactly into that same space. So there's 2 double crochets coming out of that same space. And we're going to just repeat this pattern all the way around. So the first one gets 1 double crochet. And then the next stitch gets 2 double crochets. 1 into that stitch, 2. I'm gonna jump ahead, but keep repeating that pattern of 1 into the first stitch and 2 into the second stitch. I'll see you at the end of this round. I finished round 5. We have 2 double crochets into my last stitch, and now I need to join the round by slip stitching into that chain 2 space. Now you'll see it starts to flare out because we just added increases, and it's time to finish the body. Row 6 to row 10 are the rest of the body, and they're all exactly the same as rows 2, 3, and 4, except instead of 12 stitches, we just increased, there'll be a total of 18 stitches. Now, rows 6 through 10 is a total of 5 rows, and it's the length of the body. Depending on how big your egg is, you might want to do more or less rows. I just followed the pattern exactly how it is, doing a total of 5 for the length of the body, and I think it's like pretty adjustable. It works on big eggs and little eggs. So you can just play around with that, but just keep that in mind. All right, back to round 6. So like I said, it's the same as before. We're just gonna chain 2, ignore it, and work a double crochet into that first stitch. There we go, our first double crochet, and then keep doing double crochets into each stitch all the way around. You should have a total of 18. And then slip stitch to join the round and repeat for rows 7, 8, 9, and 10, or however many you want to make. I am going to jump ahead to the end of round 10, but yeah, keep going all the way around, 18 each round. I'll see you there. I finished round 10 with my 18 double crochets. To finish off, I'm gonna join the round by slip stitching into that chain 2 space. And then I do a chain 1. Then I cut the yarn. But I accidentally already did without finishing it off correctly, so I had to redo that. But you cut your yarn and then pull the yarn through. And then I pull it tight. And then we'll weave this end in later. And we finished our body. Doesn't really look like a bunny yet, but bear with me. We have a few more steps and it will be a cute little bunny before you know it. To start the ears, we're going to be chaining 10. So we're gonna start with a slip stitch and then leave a little bit of a longer tail. This is more than enough, probably too much, but I'll show you why. We'll use it later. All right, so begin by chaining 10. 1, we have our chain 10, and we are actually going to be working from the 3rd chain from the hook. So there's 1, 2, 3. We're gonna be working into that stitch right there. We are going to do double crochets down this chain, starting from that 3rd stitch. So yarn over, pull through 2, double crochets. I hope I said double crochets. We're doing double crochets. Here we have our first double crochet. And now I'm gonna keep working down this chain doing double crochets. So now I'm gonna go into the next stitch. And keep working all the way down the chain, making double crochets. We've made it to the last stitch where we're going to double crochet, but this time we're actually doing 3 double crochets into that last stitch. So there's 1. Now we're gonna do 2 more into that same spot. 2. And then here's our 3rd one. And that kind of wraps us around to the other side of the chain, and we're actually gonna be working double crochets down the back side too. And while I work into these back sides of the chains, I like to hold this extra tail end and kind of weave it in with it. The pattern says sew it down the ear at the end, but I think this is easier. But if you don't think so, you can just sew it in later. Okay, I keep having to adjust my hands. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to be working into this next chain from the previous crochet we did. Here's our 1, 2, 3, and then that would be the one before it, and that's the chain, the back side of the chain above it. So I'm gonna yarn over, hold this back side close to it, go through that loop. Sometimes I have to use my nail. Yarn over, pull through with both. You see that? I got the tail end and the loop right there. And pull through and do a double crochet as normal. And then keep doing this all the way down the back side. Now I've double crocheted into each back loop. I like to add 1 more into that chain 2 that we skipped in the beginning when we started our double crochets, just to kind of even it out. So we have our ear, except it doesn't really look like a bunny ear when it's flat like this. I think it looks more like a bunny ear when it's kind of folded like that. And we'll do that later when we're sewing it onto the head. But I also like to bring it in at the bottom right now. So I'll just kind of go into the opposite side somewhere and do a slip stitch to kind of help pull it together. It's a little bit better. Then I'll do another chain, cut the yarn, but leave it a little bit longer because we want to use it to sew it onto the head later. And then pull it through. There we go. We have our first ear. Now just repeat that and make 2 ears. Now it's time to make the little paws, and we're gonna start the same way we did the ears. So make a slip knot with a little bit of an extra tail, and then we are going to chain 8. 1, 8. Now instead of doing double crochets, we are going to be doing half double crochets, and we're also going to be starting into the 3rd stitch from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, right here. To start a half double crochet, yarn over and go through that 3rd stitch, pull through, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. So keep doing half double crochets all the way down the chain. There we go, that's our arm, pretty easy. To end it off, I just kind of do a slip stitch through that chain there, and then I'm going to cut the yarn, leaving some room to sew it onto the bunny and pull through. Now repeat this one more time to make a second paw. All right, it is time to switch things up. We are gonna be making the chick's wings, so you need to grab your yellow yarn or whatever color you wanna make your chick. And it's actually very similar to the bunny ear. So we're gonna start with a slip knot with a little bit of a longer tail. That's more than enough. And then we're gonna chain 6. 1, 6. Now we are going to work into the 3rd chain from the hook. Just like the bunny, we're gonna do a double crochet into that chain. Now work a double crochet down the chain. Once we get to that last chain, we're going to do 4 double crochets into that chain space. So here's our first one. 2, 3, 4. 4, 4. Now that we have our 4 double crochets in the end chain space, we are going to double crochet down the back side just like the rabbit and hold this in to crochet it into the piece. So find that chain space. It's kind of hard when you're working down the back side. There you go. Now I have my crochets down both sides of the chain. You'll notice this first one is actually not the double crochet, it's just the chains. So what I like to do is chain 2 and then slip stitch into that chain space to kind of even it out. And then I do a chain 1, cut the yarn and pull it through. Once you have one, make a second one so you have 2 little wings for your chick. Let's make the chick's beak. Grab your orange yarn and we are going to do a slip knot. Now we are going to chain 3 and then we are going to do a single crochet into that second center chain and a single crochet into that first chain. Now we are going to chain 1 and turn. Now we are going to work single crochets into those 2 stitches we just made. Now repeat, we're gonna chain 1, single crochet into that first stitch, single crochet into that next stitch. The last ones are always hard for me. Now repeat one more time. Chain 1, turn, single crochet into that first stitch, single crochet into that next stitch. Chain 1, turn. We're going to skip that stitch and do 1 single crochet into that last stitch. And then I chain 1 and trim the yarn and pull through. Now we have our beak. We will be folding it in half and then sewing it into the chick. Now that we've crocheted all of the pieces, it's time to start putting the bunny together. And we're gonna start by stuffing the head. So grab your polyfill or whatever you're using to stuff and begin stuffing your bunny. We're only gonna put this in the head, and because we worked in double crochets, that leaves a little bit bigger gaps. I don't wanna overstuff it. You'll see on the bunny, I kind of did more stuffing here. The head's a little bit larger, which is fine, but it just makes the gaps a little bit bigger too. Those are inevitable, but you can see them a little bit more on the bunny versus the duckling. But it's part of the look. So just keep stuffing. Great, that's good enough. And now we need to start sewing the neck together to make it take shape. Grab your yarn and thread a needle. We're gonna sew the neck together. And I start by finding the seam, which is gonna be those chain twos, which I think is right here. You can kind of see because it looks different than the other double crochets. I like to keep this at the back, but it doesn't really matter if it doesn't bother you. We're also gonna be working in between row 4 and 5 where the head ends and the body starts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's row 5. So I kind of go in right in between these holes right here when I sew it together. The original pattern wasn't too specific, just find a spot between the neck and the body to sew it together. So at the chain 2, in between 4 and 5, I just start going in and over, up and down in between these little circles. And then eventually make it back around. I want to make sure I end where this first tail is coming out. So in and out. So both these ends are coming out of the same spot. Trim your yarn. And then I make sure the stuffing is really pushed up there, and I pull these 2 strings tight. Once I pull that tight, I'm also going to tie these 2 ends together. Maybe 2 or 3 times. Really hold that tight. And then once those are tied together, I just trim off the loose ends. And then kind of try and stick that knot into the head. That's why it's good when they come out the same side, because you can kind of push it back in. There we go, here's our body. Next, let's sew on the 2 ears. The pattern doesn't say exactly how to do it, so I'm just gonna briefly show you what I do, but I don't think there's a wrong or right way to do this. But take the longest strand of one of your ears and thread a needle. And then I take the ear, paying attention to like where this is coming out of. So it's gonna be on this side. And then I just kind of like hold it, stage it where I want it to sit. Once I'm happy with it, I'll do my best to aim and sew it in there. So I go down into the bunny's head and then back out. And then back into the bunny's ear. This is really hard to do on camera. And then I keep going around and around into the bunny's head and back into the ear until it feels secure. I also kind of pay attention to the shape of the ear and kind of use this time to scrunch it up so it takes more of an ear shape than the flat open shape. So I'll push this in and hold it there while I'm going in and out of the bunny's head and ear. Once I feel happy with the ear and it's on there secure enough, I take the end of this and then just go back into the head one more time. But I go all the way through, in through a random hole. Don't go through the yarn. And then back through another hole into that same spot, then back through another hole, and then I kind of leave that there. And then there's also this tail part of the ear, So I thread it on my needle and do the same thing, just kind of push it through the head. And have it come through the same hole. Whoa. And then once I have these two ends coming through that hole, I tie them into a knot without pulling it too tight because it can kind of tug on the ear. And then tie another knot. Let me make that one tight. And then I will snip and just kind of tuck that end away. All right, we got our first bunny ear. Now you need to do the exact same thing. Place the second ear where you like it and just sew it on into the bunny. Our bunny has two ears, and this one was way easier to sew on off of camera. Kind of struggled through this one. I also noticed my gauge is different while I'm working on camera. My stitches are much bigger and looser, so the ears are two different sizes because one was made while I was filming and one was made while I wasn't. And same with the arms, but whatever, doesn't matter. Let's sew on the arms. So grab the longest piece of yarn coming off of the arm and thread your needle. We are gonna sew the arm on in between rows 5 and 6. It's just the same exact thing as before. Or you could do it without arms. It's kind of cute this way too. But the original pattern called for arms. So once I'm happy with the placement, I just go into the body and then back into the arm. And then back into the body and then through the arm again. And then I just keep doing this until the arm is secure. Once I feel like the arm is securely on the rabbit, I go through the yarn and then just push this back into the head, just like the ears. And then same with this piece. And then just like before, I grab the two ends, tie them together, not too tight the first time, and then tight the second time. Trim the ends and kind of stuff it in. I had an easier time hiding them on my other ones, I think because my stitches are looser on this, there's more gaps and you can kind of see more into the head. And then do that one more time for the second arm. All right, we finished the bunny. It has ears and two arms. I've sewn the wings onto the duckling the same way I do the arms. Make sure you go over the top and the bottom and make sure they're secure. I know we talked about the stuffing and the head size and how it impacts the holes, but also having a tighter gauge, like I did on the duckling because I did it off camera, can kind of impact that too. So if you don't like seeing the gaps, just make sure you crochet a little bit tighter when you do it. Now we have to finish the duckling by adding the beak. I had to make a new beak because I don't know what happened to the one I made, but here is the beak, made the exact same way. We are gonna be folding it in half and then sewing it into the head down the middle. But first I kind of wanna move these two strings. So I'm gonna take this shorter string and then just kind of bring it down into the middle. You could technically do this later, but I kind of like to see how it impacts the shape of the beak. So I like doing it before. We're gonna thread the needle on the other string, the longer one that we're gonna be sewing into the head. And then we're gonna bring this down the side into the middle too. Now we're gonna fold it in half and decide which one you want to be the top. I think I like this as the top. And just like before, kind of hold it where you want it to sit on the duck. That looks good. And then I'm going to take the needle and go into the duck's head and then back into the center of the beak. Oop. And then I'm going to go back into the beak and through the head, just all the way across the beak until it's secure. Once I'm happy with that, I'm gonna go through the beak once again and through the head just to finish it off, just like the other pieces. Now our chick has a beak and wings, and our bunny has ears and arms. There is one more step for the bunny. If you want, you can add a little tail. I thought that's cute. I just have little pom-poms. This is purple, and I just attach it with glue. So make sure this is the very last thing you do because it needs to take time to dry or it might pop up. So I find the back and where I want to place it. You'll see these chain 2 spaces right here. I'll take some fabric glue and I'll place it just on one stitch. I don't want it to go over multiple. So I'm going to put some fabric glue right where I want to put the pom-pom. And then press the pom-pom down. And then let that dry. And then we're done. We finished building our chick and our bunny. We have all the pieces, but you can go ahead and decorate them however you want. I'm not flipping the bunny over because I need that tail to dry. Like on these ones, I added these cute little bows to add some color to it. Or you could totally just leave them as is. You see this one, I haven't showed you yet. I started to embroider a little nose. I tried doing eyes and the original pattern had eyes. They suggested cutting out pieces of felt and gluing them, but I didn't really like how it looked. I liked having like the pastel colors and the minimalist look, so I just did them without eyes. But yeah, like I said, you can decorate them any way you want. But that's it, we're all done. We are ready for Easter. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, that helps me a bunch. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know, I'm happy to help. Happy crafting, and I'll see you next time.